Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Google Cloud Startup Summit 2023. My name is Elena Amjad, Global Startup Marketing Director at Google Cloud. We are seeing tremendous innovation in the generative AI space coming from startups such as Replit, Anthropic, and Cohere, choosing Google Cloud to advance their generative AI development thanks to our fully managed and serverless data, AI, and infrastructure solutions. This is why this year's Startup Summit is focused on AI, which is top of mind for startups across the board. We'll discuss advances in technology, challenges stemming from the current startup climate, strategic and technical advice. We have a stacked lineup for you today, including founders of some of the hottest AI startups, such as Glyn, Jasper, and Snorkel, as well as Google Cloud executives and partners, including Thomas Kurian, our CEO, Jun Yang, who leads Cloud AI, Anna Patterson from Gradient Ventures, and Stephanie Samuels, VP of MongoDB. Since the beginning of this year, the number of AI startups that have joined our Google for Startups Cloud program has grown exponentially, including AI startups like Cradle and One AI, who are speaking today. Building on that momentum, I want to share two exciting announcements. Firstly, I am pleased to announce that our new AI startup program, which we announced on March 14th, is now live. We are accepting applications from seed to Series A startups that use AI as their core technology to develop their primary products or solutions. So you're wondering, what does our AI startup program offer? Well, up to $250,000 in Google Cloud credits in year one, which is more than double the amount we typically offer. Access to AI training, resources, and experts, including webinars and live Q&As with Google Cloud AI product team, insight into Google Cloud's latest AI advances and product roadmap, free advanced hands-on learning labs focused on AI, dedicated technical guidance, workshops, and best practices, and exclusive access to the Built with Google Cloud AI program for ISVs and SaaS startups, which includes tools, training, and amplification on Google Cloud Marketplace. Of course, on top of that, you get all the benefits of our Google for Startup Cloud program, including customer care enhanced support for fast, high-quality access to technical help, and access to Google Cloud Startup Success Managers, customer engineers, and networking events with the startup community. If your startup is eligible for the AI Startup Program, please go to cloud.google.com/startups/AI to sign up. And thank you to everyone who expressed interest in the program since we announced it in mid-March. I'm also very excited about my second announcement today, which is the inaugural North American Google for Startups Accelerator Cloud. This 10-week virtual accelerator is equity-free and best suited for cloud-native startups leveraging AI and machine learning in their operations. It is designed to help prepare for the next phase of the growth journey. And participating startups will work with the best of Google's programs, products, people, and technology. Applications are now open until May 30th, and the program will kick off in July. You can apply today as g.co/cloud/NA accelerator. And for our startups around the world, we'll have more cloud AI accelerators coming to Europe, India, and Latin America later this year. So stay tuned. Now, I know you're all eager to get started. So without further ado, let's dive into our fireside chat.
Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm Allison Wagenfeld, and I head up marketing for Google Cloud, and I'm incredibly excited to have Thomas Kurian, CEO of Google Cloud, and Amjad Masad, founder and CEO of Replit, here with us today. For those that don't know Replit, they provide an AI-assisted cloud-native software development environment to over 20 million users globally. Welcome, Amjad.
Hi, Allison. I'm Amjad, and I'm thrilled to be here today at the Google Cloud Startup Summit.
And welcome to TK.
Great to be here. Amjad, hi. Thanks, Allison, for having me.
So I'm going to start with a question for TK. Well, I call him TK. As you may know, his Twitter handle is Thomas or TK. So when I call him TK, that's why you'll hear that. So TK, startups have been following the latest announcements around generative AI, and Google's in a really interesting position, having contributed significantly over the years. How do you see this opportunity for Google Cloud and for the startups that we support?
Generative AI is just the next evolution in the boundary that AI is able to do. It started with perception years ago. Then it's moved into categorization and classification. And the next phase is generation, where you can train a model and it can actually generate outputs. And we're super, excited because we've introduced 3 important new things that developers really like. One is a collection of models of different kinds of modality: text for chat, text for text, text to image, text to code now, and a variety of different things. Secondly, we're also bringing a new search offering to allow people to actually use our search capability on their private documents, on their website, and other things, and then to build conversational applications. And one of the things we're doing is not only delivering these products to customers in a preview mode, which lots and lots of developers are using, but also integrating really popular tools like Replit.
Amjad, we were just talking about how you've been working with Google Cloud for a number of years, which is fantastic. And now you've seen tremendous success with Replit. I mentioned over 20 million users on developing on the platform. Talk us through your mission and what were you solving for when you launched, and how have you been able to take advantage of generative AI?
When I first started thinking about how to make programming easier is when I was in college. And I was actually inspired by Google Docs. So Google Docs was really fun and easy to use for us as students. And, it was, collaborating on a document. Instead of sending, Word docs over email, we would just start a doc and start working together in the cloud. And so that was the inspiration behind Replit. And that's when I started working on it. And, our kind of guiding principle is that programming should not be as laborious as to get started with programming should not take you hours and hours to set up software just to start coding. And coding should be this fun, interactive, creative action that you do. And so our mission is to power 1 billion software developers. And when we started talking about that, people thought we're crazy. Like there's going to be 1 billion software developers in the world. But I think now people are starting to see that actually as the technology is maturing, not only did we put software development in the cloud and made it interactive, but now AI is powering every software developer in the world. It's from your first line of code, the AI can help you learn how to program, can help you debug, can help you generate code. And so the barriers to entry are going down year over year. And so now we're seeing kids build startups. We're seeing designers be able to contribute code, and obviously software engineers are becoming super powered. So the software engineers becoming 10x more productive. And so, we're super excited to kind of be working with Google Cloud now and Google in general. We just got access to some of the code models, and we're just over the moon. We're excited to integrate them all into Replit.
Yeah, we're so thrilled that you're working with us and, one of our early trusted testers, so to speak, now that we're starting to make access available for our models. In fact, Thomas, I'd love to turn to you now. You're talking to some of the biggest companies in the world, also talking to startups and seeing all kinds of different opportunities for generative AI. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing, and for all of the startups that are here today, where you think the most opportunity might be in the next couple of months and years.
At the macro level, what we see generative AI being able to do is think of, Amjad was talking about, this notion of real-time collaboration. Think of being able to collaborate in real time, but within a superpower human, but as actually a virtual person, an AI person. And that person could be a collaborator, they could be a coach, they could be someone who helps you get things done. And so as we work with different clients and different startups, we are seeing them do a variety of things. In the marketing space, for example, we have people generating content of different kinds, generating amazing, rich documents, event invitations, collateral. When you look at, so there's one entire new space being transformed through generation. In the media space, in design space, in the marketing space. A second set of things we see is people synthesizing information. Synthesizing information, think of it as if you had this computer that could read all the documents in a legal department or all the documents that financial analysts are putting out, but synthesize and summarize them super quickly. So that's the second way. Third way, people are opening up their systems through generative AI for customer engagement. Customer engagement, think of going online and you're shopping for something. And you say, I don't know what's the best product that would go in my living room. And you just upload a picture of the living room, and the generative AI helps you find that product, helps you not just have identified through search the discovery of the product, but through conversation, understand your needs. Hey, I need a purple colored sofa because I love purple, right? So it's the third thing is changing the notion of engagement with customer, engagement with internal employees, engagement with a variety of other things. The pair programmer, if you will, is another example of engaging your teams, the one that Amjad talked about. And then lastly, automation. When we look at Google as an example, and we've got engineers writing code, one of the most complicated things is not just about generating code fragments, not just about auto-completing what I'm typing, but as an example, code inspection. Hey, did you write code that has security holes in it? Few people know how to actually do it well. And through our code models and other things, you can also automate many things. So it's all these different flavors of things that we see people trying to do. And many startups are now working in this space. And one of the things we're trying to do is give them access to both our infrastructure, like GPUs, for example, and TPUs as infrastructure to build models with. But in many cases, you can start with our models, or you can start with popular open source models.
Yeah, that's great. And it's super exciting to think about all of the different use cases. And I know I'm going to turn this back over to Amjad because there's a lot of startups here that are looking at you thinking, wow, you've been scaling, you're kind of rocking it. And you talk a lot about the speed of iteration and like how to move fast. Can you talk a little bit about your own journey and then how you think the development landscape has changed and how others can take advantage of AI now to grow similar to how you have and faster?
My close friend and mentor who started Y Combinator, Paul Graham, he is known as sort of the startup whisperer in Silicon Valley. And he told me one of the number one predictors for startup success is the speed of shipping, the speed of iteration. The startups in Y Combinator that are actually pushing week over week progress are the startups that are more likely to make it. And that makes sense, right? Because you're out there, you're making progress, you're showing your customers what you're able to do, you're taking their feedback, you're iterating on that. So that's very important. But I think that the kind of the groundswell of change right now that's happening with AI is that you really need less people to get a lot more done, right? So what TK explained and how AI could be part of every part of your journey, right? So from the first line of code that you're writing all the way to generating the code, but also it is it is a component in your software. So I'll give you a short example. Like a lot of times when you're working in a piece of software, you come across a piece of unstructured data that you have to parse. That could take weeks to like parse and test and make sure you cover all the edge cases. Now it could be just a prompt. You could write a prompt, deploy that prompt, and now you've solved that problem and you're on to the next problem. And one of the things that we really love about Google Cloud and what inspired us about TK's view of this is he's taking a very open view of this. Is yes, you can use our models. We'll give you access to the underlying infrastructure. You can bring your own models, and so Google Cloud is becoming this open platform that you can use in all sorts of levels of abstraction, and that's really what caught our eye. So I think it has never been a better time to start a startup. You need less people. You need you spend less time doing things that are not fun, and you can just go and like really focus on your customer and build something great for them.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That must be music to the ears of everybody here listening in. TK, would love some closing thoughts from you around what Amjad said, or any words of guidance or advice to all the startup founders listening in today.
I couldn't agree more with Amjad, right? Which is when you're in a startup, understanding your customer need, understanding the market, understanding your customer need, and then being able to iterate super quickly has always been the centerpiece of success. Now, when we look at it, what cloud computing has done is originally, if you were a startup, the first thing you went and did was order a bunch of servers and disks, waited like 6 months to get them, had to rent data center space, hire 4 sysadmins to do it. What cloud did was abstract away that. And a lot of what we're trying to do is continue to raise the abstraction through which, and the higher the abstraction, the faster you go. So we started with compute and storage, and then people said, hey, can I get databases? Can I get cybersecurity tools? Can I get analytic tools? AI is the next thing, because to build a foundation model is hard. It's complicated. You have to have a lot of data to learn how to train it. It's complicated to build and scale. And what we're doing is, by continually moving up, simplifying and giving startups speed. And the faster you can go, the more likely you're to succeed. So we're thrilled at the opportunity, not only for us to take all the innovation we've got and bring it to developers to kind of help them build amazing applications. We learn a lot by observing what their needs are. And we're also thrilled that the ecosystem, see, it's not just us, it's ecosystem partners. Replit has been someone that we followed for such a long time, and it's great to see their success. But it's also now, through this partnership, we're helping developers use both our products together.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The ecosystem is such a core part of what we are all about at Google Cloud. And Amjad, I'd love one final thought from you. You mentioned that you've been working with Google Cloud for a while. You were part of our startup program. What have you gotten out of the program, and what would be your advice to everybody else here who's just starting to work with our startup program?
in 2017, we were actually using AWS. And in 2017, I remember there was like a couple outages at AWS where it's obviously they're doing great work over there, but at the time we couldn't reach anyone. We couldn't talk to anyone. We didn't know anyone. For us, it was sort of a bit faceless corporation. And we had started building a relationship with the folks at the Google Cloud Startup Program. And we said, okay, we'll talk to them since we're having all this trouble. And we actually came here. They had us over for lunch at the San Francisco Google office. And we just liked everyone there. It was like it was a very personal relationship. It was very hands-on. We sat down with some engineers. We architected our solution, which is not a trivial solution, but the engineers that were present were actual engineers that are actually working at Google. They're high caliber engineers. And ever since then, I think that our relationships have just gotten closer and closer, and we've gotten access to more folks at Google Cloud, culminating in this partnership. So I hands down, it's been like the best. Everyone says that they have a startup program, but this one has been the best. And it's sort of bittersweet that we're no longer in the early stage that we can make use of that. But obviously we're happy about everything else we're doing.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, thank you so much for the partnership. I know that we've loved watching your journey and being part of your journey. And now really as a partner of ours of helping accelerate the journey of all of the other companies that are working with the program. And thank you, TK, for joining us right now as well. The perspective for both of you have been super insightful. And now for everybody listening in, I encourage you to watch our next session where June Yang, our VP of Cloud AI and Industry Solutions, will be sharing some of her perspectives and giving you an inside look of some of our new generative AI offerings to come. So thank you very much for tuning in, and we really appreciate all of your partnership.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining the Google Cloud Startup Summit. I'm June Yang, and I lead our AI team here at Google Cloud. It is an exciting time to be in AI. Generative AI is poised to usher in a new wave of interactive, multimodal experiences that will transform how we interact with information, brands, and one another. It's opening up new revenue models, growth opportunities, and investments on the rise for startups. The global generative AI market is expected to reach $42.6 billion in 2023. At the heart of the wave of AI innovation is foundation models, which are large AI models that can be adapted to a wide range of tasks that can generate high-quality text, image, speech, code, and more with minimal training. Foundation models have been years in the making, and Google has been at the very forefront of it. Let me share with you a few key moments, starting with infrastructure. As general-purpose compute began to reach the very limits of physics, deep learning requirements led Google to create TPU. This specialized hardware has since been made available to Google Cloud customers and allow teams to innovate with larger models around the world. In 2017, Google introduced transformer technology, which spurred the beginning of foundation models and generative AI innovation. In 2018, BERT, a groundbreaking large language model, was introduced to the world. During the first half of 2023, we have made a series of announcements to make generative AI more accessible. BARD is our experimental conversational AI service for consumers. You can use BARD to boost your productivity, accelerate your ideas, and fuel your curiosity. In Google Workspace, we're introducing new features that will help people harness the power of generative AI to create, connect, and collaborate. At Google Cloud AI, we've introduced two platforms that you can build your generative AI experiences on. The first is generative AI support on Vertex AI. Vertex AI is our end-to-end unified ML development and deployment platform, now with its biggest update yet, with generative AI support. A range of foundation models are available to developers and data scientists. Developers can benefit from the easy API access, and data scientists have a full suite of tuning options for customizing foundation models. The second is GenApp Builder. It's a brand new offering that brings together foundation models with the power of search and conversational AI to enable you to develop new generative AI experiences and new generative AI apps, even with limited technical expertise. Many startups are planning to leverage generative AI. So today, I'd like to show you 2 demos to showcase the possibilities with this new offering. We'll start with showcasing generative AI support in Vertex AI. And for that, I'd like to invite my team member, Nishad, Director of Product Management for Vertex AI. Welcome, Nishad.
Thanks very much for having me, June.
So Nishad, it's great to have you here to showcase the power of generative AI in Vertex. What use cases are you thinking about doing for us today?
June, for our startup friends who can be short on marketing resources, what I'm going to show you is how they can leverage generative AI for content creation. Okay. But not just any content creation, but content creation with your brand voice and your personality by customizing foundation models.
Let's jump right in.
Let's build an application for Symbol, a fictional marketing company that can generate custom copy and images. First, I'll create a custom large language model for Healthy Snacks, one of the Symbol brands. This will serve as the backbone of our content generation. From Vertex AI Model Garden, I can select from a variety of different models, including foundation models built by Google, open source models, and even third-party models. For this app, I'm going to choose one of Google's largest language models, PaLM Bison Text. Next, I can choose from multiple ways to customize the model. I can tune with text prompts, or if I want more extensive training, I can also fine-tune my model, which results in changes to the model's weights. This is a great option for data scientists who need to produce outputs with specialized results, like legal or medical vocabulary. But that's not necessary in this case. I'm going to go ahead and select Tune and customize the model to produce content which is aligned to my brand voice. In this simple tuning interface, I can add a model name and upload a small amount of my own data to tune the model. I'm going to use brand voice examples like press releases, tweets, and maybe some blog posts. Now, my uploaded data is stored in my company's environment, so I know that it's protected. I know that Google will only use my data with my permission and for the tasks that I specify. So after I've customized the model, I can go ahead and test it, and I can ensure that I'm getting the results I want. And I don't ever have to leave Vertex AI. This allows me to iterate really quickly. I'm going to go ahead and deploy my model to get a custom API endpoint, and that's going to make it easy to use in this marketing app. Now, Vertex AI's managed endpoints make it easy to build this into my application with only a few lines of code, just like any other Google Cloud API. I don't need to worry about the complexities of provisioning, storage, or compute resources, or of optimizing the model for inference. It all just works. With Vertex AI's developer-friendly tools, you've seen how easy it is to customize and deploy foundation models at scale. Now let's see how business users can leverage this type of marketing application. To showcase this, we're going to build a campaign for Symbol Healthy Snacks, highlighting the ingredients of its most popular granola bar. Now, generative AI makes simple text prompts really powerful. For example, with a single prompt, I can describe what I hope to highlight. I'll go ahead and add a sentence or two about the desired image. Click Generate, and here we go. With the power of generative AI, I now have a custom social media blog, email, and campaign post that I can use across my marketing channels. From there, I can refine even further. I can actually edit my image. Our image generation model, which is coming soon, can contextualize simple text prompts to rebuild the image. I now have the text and image that I like for my marketing campaign. This application we built with Vertex AI's new generative AI capabilities has made it possible for business users to create a marketing campaign in minutes.
Thank you, Najat. This demo really simplifies content creation and allows creators to be able to explore many, many different options really rapidly. That's great. Najat, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, June.
Vertex AI offers multiple families of foundation models. We also offer multiple model sizes. Typically, the bigger the model, the higher the quality, and so is higher the cost. We always advise customers to look at the use case needs and pick the optimal price performance model for your particular use case. While foundation models are powerful and capable, to build enterprise-grade Gen apps quickly and efficiently, you need more than just foundation models. At Google Cloud, we're combining the power of foundation model with enterprise search and conversational AI to enable developers to be in the driver's seat and define how they want generative AI to surface in their applications. For example, every organization has an internal repository of data and will want to generate specific responses from it, rather than just from the general information from the model. Enterprise search complements foundation model to provide up-to-date and targeted information from internal data alongside public data. Conversational AI enables developers to steer interaction down a productive path to determine when a response should be retrieved from your transactional database, like how much is my bill this month, or when a transaction such as pay now should occur. Next, let's see a demo of Gen App Builder. Gen App Builder lets developers, even those with limited AI expertise, build search and conversational experiences rapidly. This allows your startup to iterate quickly, find the product market fit, then get ready to scale. And for this demo, I want to turn over to my colleague, Anu, Senior Developer Relations Lead. Welcome, Anu.
Thank you, June. When online interactions become more conversational and human-like, it creates an opportunity for you to better connect with your customers, employees, and partners. Gen App Builder enables developers to easily tap into the power of Google's foundation models, search experience, and conversational AI technologies. So with this, your startup can create enterprise-grade generative AI applications. So let's see how this can transform your customer experience. With the Gen App Builder, developers can quickly ship new experiences with templates for bots, chat interfaces, custom search engines, digital assistants, and more. Even more exciting is that Gen Apps will be incredibly easy to build, which means more people than ever will be able to create experiences just like the one you saw. So now let me show you how to do this with the Gen App Builder. I start by logging into the Gen App Builder and adding relevant data sources such as my company's URL and some internal documents. My data is stored in my company's environment, so I know it's protected, and Google will only use it with my permission. Gen App Builder can power both search and chat experiences, so let's create both. The builder quickly sets up these out-of-the-box experiences with an easy-to-use step-by-step orchestration guide, and once we are done, we can easily preview to ensure that the app is working as we expect it. You get granular control of your configuration and your responses. So you can fine-tune the search experience by boosting search parameters, enabling, disabling features, modifying the UI, and more. Then likewise, for chat, we can choose what type of responses to allow, use pre-built workflows for common tasks such as check order status, and even complete customer transactions. So once we're done, we can easily deploy these experiences to a bunch of places: websites, internal data sets, and in the case of chatbots, popular messaging apps, and our telephony partners. So it's easy to get the widget deployment code, and now you're ready to deploy. That's it. Within minutes, we have built a generative AI-powered search and chat application. Back over to you, June.
These are such common use cases. Just about every business should benefit from having a virtual assistant to deliver a better experience for their customers, partners, and employees, and to provide a fast, effective search experience for their data. Thank you, Anu, for showcasing us how easy it is to get started. This is just a taste of what Google Cloud generative AI capabilities can do for you. We are just at the very beginning of the era of Gen Apps. To sign up for early access to our new generative AI offerings, please join the Trusted Tester program by visiting g.co/cloud/trusted-tester. When Google Cloud brings new AI advances to our products, our commitment is twofold: deliver transformative capabilities while ensuring proper protection are in place for our customers, users, and society at large. Our AI principle, established in 2017, form a living constitution that guides our approach to building advanced technologies, conducting research, and drafting our policies. Our new generative AI offering are no exception. Factuality and freshness is met by providing the right sourcing and attribution, while serving the most relevant information. Many of you will be developing B2B startups with application and services targeting at enterprise customers. While building on top of our platform, we ensure enterprise needs are met by providing choices and control, including data isolation, security, and privacy. Our customers also benefit from an open ecosystem. Our partners are ready to support generative AI at every layer of the stack, from the chip maker to the AI technology provider to app builder. Together, we're committed to help our startup customers take advantage of generative AI. With new expanded benefits for AI startup under Google for Startup Cloud program, this has never been a better time for startups to build their AI apps and experiences on Google Cloud. To apply, visit cloud.google.com/startup. With all of our generative AI offering and the new innovative ideas enhanced with generative AI, we can't wait to see what Gen Apps you're going to build with Google Cloud. Thank you so much for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye-bye.
everyone. My name's Darren Morey, and I have the opportunity to lead Google Cloud's business here in North America, focused on partnering with some of the hottest startups in the world. I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to spend some time today with three founders who are driving really exciting disruptions through the power of AI. And they're hoping to really help us get an understanding of how they created their company missions and how they're working hard to deliver incredible results for their customers. So let me tell you about who we have, and then let's dive in for some great conversation. First of all, we have Arvind Jain, who's the CEO and co-founder of Glean, which provides out-of-the-box AI-powered workplace search across all of a company's data. Glean builds on the company's knowledge graph, understanding people and content and interactions, so every result is personalized to the user with extremely high accuracy. Secondly, we have Dave Rogan-Moser, who's CEO and co-founder of Jasper, which is a generative AI platform for businesses that helps your team create content tailored for your brand at incredible speed. So with Jasper, you can create amazing things like sales emails, captions, video scripts, marketing copy, blog posts, artwork, and images, and a whole lot more. And last but definitely not least, we have Paroma Varma, who is co-founder of Snorkel AI. With programmatic labeling and rapid training data and model iteration, Snorkel provides modern-day plumbing infrastructure to support accelerated development of AI solutions. Three astounding founders, and let's dive in and get to know them a little bit better now. So each of you has had the opportunity to build something rather extraordinary, and I want to dive into how you were able to grow your startups so successfully in such a short amount of time, as well as discuss the role that AI has played in that journey. And Arvind, I'd like to start with you, if that's all right. I'd love to hear from you to tell us a little bit more about the inspiration behind Glean.
Yeah, definitely. So we started Glean in 2019. As an engineer, I've always struggled to find the right code or design documents or information to do my job. I struggled with that even when I was at Google, like despite us being Google being the biggest search company in the world. Over the years, this problem has become worse as the amount of knowledge we need to work has grown exponentially, and it has gotten also very fragmented due to explosion of the number of cloud applications that a business ends up using these days. We faced this problem at my previous company, where our productivity came to a screeching halt as we doubled our workforce for 4 years in a row. In our Pulse survey, employees reported not being able to find information or who to go and ask for help as a number one issue in the way of their productivity. So that was the time when I actually, ultimately felt that, I would just go and solve this problem for myself. So that's how we got started.
Thank you so much, Arvind. And Dave, same question for you. Will you tell us a little bit about the inspiration that led you to launch Jasper?
Yeah, so I'm a marketer by background, and it always, spent a lot of time training on how to write great copy, and got pretty good at it. And then I'd just seen that, end of 2020, AI had gotten really good at that skill, kind of out of nowhere, it seemed. And so rather than just, get disrupted, I thought, well, what if we built really simple solutions on top of some of this core technology and just let regular people, other marketers that maybe are not engaged with AI on a day-to-day basis, use this to help speed up their workflows, use this to help them better and faster blog posts, emails, ad copy, and just a whole host of content. And so put together a very simple product beginning of 2021. Got on some Zoom calls, showed it to some people. Just thought, hey, what do you think of this? And everyone kind of went nuts on these Zoom calls. And I had never experienced that before. Past companies I had built, no one was really that excited about them. And so that was really cool. It was just a really remarkable leap forward that did feel, 10 times better than what they were doing already. And if you've got a really remarkable product that really solves customers' problems well, growth is surely, soon behind. And that was kind of the genesis for Jasper.
That's great, Dave. I look forward to digging in. I love the idea of, not allowing yourself to be disrupted, be the disruptor. And again, fantastic example of using advanced technology, but really making it available to business users of all kinds. So excited to dig in more. And Paroma, you're doing some fascinating things at Snorkel. And before we dive into even more detail, would you give us a little bit of insight into what led you to launch Snorkel in the first place?
Yeah, so Snorkel actually started out as a research project at the Stanford AI Lab back in 2015. This is around the time we kind of saw a lot of these ML models and the infrastructure to support them becoming increasingly commoditized. And this was actually thanks to a lot of the work that was happening at Google. Just a couple of lines of code and you could get access to the latest and greatest open source models. So what we saw was this kind of shift that the bottleneck was in getting the training data for the specific use cases that people were working on. So Snorkel focuses on this data-centric mode of developing machine learning models, making data labeling and development programmatic, kind of like software engineering, easier to manage and sometimes up to 1,000 times more efficient. So we kind of kept working on this approach, focused on the theoretical guarantees as PhD students, but continuously kept validating it and iterating on the approach with real-world applications through quite a few of our collaborators, including Google again, actually. So a couple of years and papers into Snorkel's roots in academia, we kind of saw ourselves at the stage where users were asking for something more, like how do they manage their training data? How do they analyze their model? How do they iterate on their data efficiently? So we started focusing on, actually building a real product to engage with our users and customers more deeply. So, kind of what we saw was even with machine learning and, large language models and foundation models today, there's a lot of work that goes into looking at your data, involving the subject matters, but using their time in a smart way. And that's what we continue focusing on at Snorkel today.
Amazing. Thanks so much for that background. I love the fact that all three of you are coming from different backgrounds, solving different kinds of problems, but in super fascinating ways. And I want to unpack that a little bit. I'll also say that you all come across, happy, positive, but something tells me that there's also been a lot to learn and a lot of challenges and headwinds when you're building a company. Obviously, launching a successful startup is not for the faint of heart. And so deciding the products that you all have just mentioned, hiring the talent that you need in a really competitive marketplace, raising the right amount of funds, finding product market fit, that's just a few of the things that are challenges that are all requiring excellent execution from you and your teams. So Dave, if I can come back to you, when we think about Jasper, understanding that there are many startup founders that are joining this session, and frankly, a lot of aspiring startup founders listening to us today, can you share a few lessons of what you've learned along the way that you'd want to share with those founders, please?
Yeah, so when we launched Jasper, I had the same co-founders working on about 3 or 4 other companies for the last, the 7 years up to that. And maybe what I didn't understand fully was that all of the lessons and hard fought battles and scars, that I had from those days gave me superpowers with Jasper. And so, that was just one lesson that, it's all connected. It all builds on itself. And it allowed me to go and like hit Jasper really hard around, I'd done things like community building before. We were really good at go to market. We'd built a software, startup before. And so like, we just started kind of already, taking some of our lumps and that paid off. But in growing a business, then there's just this whole new set of things that I had not done before. I hadn't really built out a large team and I hadn't really scaled a company in the past. And so, like you said, all those are very, very challenging. I think with AI in particular, what's been a challenge is building new workflows from first principles with the help of AI. And so, for example, writing a blog post, most people, they open up a blank Word doc and they, maybe write out, their outline and then start typing. But with AI, you can come at it a whole different way. And you should be thinking about it a whole different way. And we should be building workflows around that. And at the same time, we need to make it feel familiar. Because if our users just come in and it's like, well, this is totally different than anything I've ever done in my life before, I'm just going to cancel, close out, and go away. So it's going to kind of feel familiar enough to get involved and engaged, but be different enough that you actually experience the magic. And that is really challenging. And I just think, too, we're building stuff that no one's ever done before. And, figuring out, even just our own backend and how do you scale that and how do you, where do you use out of the box models and other APIs and where do we need to kind of build some of our own? There's just all these trade-offs. But for me, what I keep coming back to is just speed. We really try to optimize for speed in our company. And I think the market's gotten so blazing fast in the last, few months even that speed is kind of your biggest weapon. And if you can't move fast, then you're going to be in trouble. And so oftentimes when we're kind of weighing the different options and, should we do X or Y? It's like, well, which one's faster? And like, let's start there. And, oftentimes that pays off as we continue to iterate on that. So speed and then just rethinking things from the ground up so that you actually do get that magic wow moment have been big for us.
Excellent. Thanks so much for that, Dave. And Paroma, when we think about Snorkel, you've obviously, while a different background than Dave, you've been at this, right? Iterating, trying, failing, making new decisions. When you reflect on all of that experience, what would you say are the top maybe 1 or 2 lessons that you've learned along the way that you could share with some of the founders listening to us today?
This is going to be a hard one to choose from, but I think really early on, as the founding team was starting the company, we had the opportunity to work with some of the largest financial institutions, and it became really clear that in production AI, there's sort of this inverse Pareto principle where the last 20% takes 80% of the effort, to really get things that are like demos and look really cool into production systems and drive real value. So that was something that we really enjoyed, kind of learning a lot about, partnering with a lot of our customers and really making that idea of putting customer value first a really core part of the culture at the company. And, then we kind of went through this process where we were iterating really closely with our customers, seeing, what allows them to go that next step and put their AI models in production, building those lessons back into the product, going back to actually this idea of speed and being able to do that really rapidly. But we kind of then transitioned from a founder-led sales process to one that was led by our really phenomenal sales team. And there was a little bit of a transition point there where we kind of couldn't be all hands on deck all the time with every single person. And we had to make those trade-offs, right? Around, it's tempting to say yes to each and every single thing, each and every single request. But the hard part is knowing when to say no. And that's something we kind of work through. So again, important to keep that in mind, important to keep speed in mind. So a +1 to that. But at the same time, it's really critical to have that tone and have that culture of really putting customer value first for the whole team.
Thanks so much, Paroma. I think the insights that all three of you shared there were profound. Speed matters across the board. First principles matter, especially when you're building and scaling. And Paroma, great points there around putting your customer at the center and yet being balanced in how you respond and react to what the customer is saying on a day-to-day basis. All great lessons that I think can be applied across any company that our guests and our listeners today may be looking at. So listen, there's no doubt that AI is front and center in the minds of almost every company on the planet. In my experience lately, whether you're an AI native company or an organization seeking to exploit AI, obviously AI is P0, top of the list. And I'm really excited that we can dig into this with you today. We're just at the beginning of something that we think is a long-term evolution where we may not even know what the future is going to look like. But I'd love to get your perspective from all three of you, frankly, on where you see your businesses and maybe the future of AI going from your own vantage point. And Arvind, I'd love to start with you first. When we think about what's happening at Glean and you think 5 years into the future, where might you, your team, and Glean be based on all of the advancements happening in the market at the moment?
It's really hard to comprehend what's going to happen in the next 5 years. The pace at which things are moving right now is actually, feels, difficult to even predict, where we are going to be with AI in the next 1 year. What we know is that we need to be very agile and be ready to leverage all the improvements that are coming, in this domain from the industry. This is something that we have noticed, like you have to be ready to go and replace, the systems that you've built, with, multiple years of R&D with the new AI system that may actually just come and outperform it. So that's how we're thinking about it right now is, be agile, be quick and ready to react, as this technology evolves at a really, really fast pace.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Arvind. What I hear you saying there, I think, is probably applicable to Paroma and Dave as well, in the sense of 5 years probably feels like an eternity versus thinking about things in weeks, months, quarters. And so I think that's very fair feedback. Paroma, when you think about Snorkel, kind of ask yourself the same questions. Whatever that time horizon is, where do you see the innovations, AI, and the applications of that for Snorkel taking you?
Yeah, I think reflecting on the same thing that Arvind said, it's hard to guess where we will be 5 years from now. I think for Snorkel, we essentially started when there was this wave of commoditization across models and infrastructure. And I feel like we're in kind of another one of those points right now with these foundation models and large language models. It has this potential of kind of reinventing entire industries. And we're at a point where, the playing field has kind of been leveled. And the only way that enterprises are differentiating themselves is with the data that's used to train models. So for Snorkel specifically, I think kind of sticking to what we've been working on for the past several years, this idea of data-centric AI and really making data the differentiator is something that we're super excited about. And in the long run, we're excited to kind of stay nimble, stay close to customers, keep focusing on that real value. Technology will continue evolving, but we have this belief that data, which really differentiates companies and use cases from each other, will continue to be that key to AI development.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Paroma. And it's clear from the work you and your team have done, starting in Stanford and the evolution and experimentation, that you're definitely at the beginning, but it's going to be so exciting to watch what you and the Snorkel team continue to create. And Dave, I'd like to come around to you. When we think about Jasper, and as you said, the disruption that you brought to yourself and the customer and market-centric view that you've brought in a really record compressed amount of time, Jasper has become known as such a powerful solution for marketers and sales and businesses around the world. How do you look forward into the future and maybe look around that next corner? What do you think Jasper is going to look like next?
Yeah, I agree. It is wild to think about, even a year from now. I wholeheartedly agree with Paroma. It can be very scary, to navigate this, but by far the safest place to be is right next to the customer and engaging with them and talking with them. And I think that's a real opportunity for people to build right now. A lot of the conversation is all the technical aspect of it and what's the latest model and what can it do and all these things. But I really see few people talking to customers and getting close to them. And so I think that's an opportunity. And so, for us, I don't fully know. Obviously, Jasper's probably we're going to need to disrupt ourselves several more times in the next 2 years, even, which is ridiculous. Companies used to have to do that, maybe once or twice over a 50-year period. And now we have to kind of do it maybe every year. But we want to be customer led, and we want to just let them, pull us into these new use cases. If you think about kind of your day to day, or let's say my parents' day to day, like they're not really using these tools very often yet. It's maybe 1% of your work, will be kind of augmented with AI right now. And so, as exciting as it is, like it's really not reached the end user in any meaningful way. And I think like in the future, we're just going to have AI just doing more stuff for us. Like in the very near term. Right now, again, generative AI is kind of, it generates content or images and it creates content, but it's not a personal assistant yet. And it's not going and booking your flights for you yet. And it's not, tagging your emails for you and all of that yet. And I just think we're going to see, it's going to feel like having a highly trained, full team at your beck and call that can do a variety of different tasks for you. Everyone will have that. It will be far better than even a highly trained team because it'll be, so personalized to you, and it'll be quick and it'll be cheap. And I think it's really going to change, so much of the day-to-day work that people do. But I'm a big optimist. I think it's going to be a really big benefit for everyone.
That's great, Dave. I love the comments that you've made, and also really appreciate the points that you've made of making this concept real for people is frankly what all three of you are doing, right? There's a lot of chatter out in the marketplace, from highly technical chatter all the way to, as you said, my mother calls me on the weekend and says, can you explain what all this is about? And what I think is great is each of your companies are bringing this technology into something that can be felt and seen and measured in advanced companies. So thanks, Dave, for saying that. Listen, as we round out our time together, I just want to ask for a quick word of advice as well from each of you, specific to what you would actually tell your younger founder self. So do some time traveling with me and think about, if you could go back in time, what would you tell yourself? Maybe less about AI, maybe about being a great founder, addressing some of these headwinds. And Dave, I'd love to start with you. So again, get in that DeLorean, go back in time, meet yourself at the beginning of this adventure. And what would you tell yourself?
I think enjoy the process. We've always just had a lot of fun building, and we've tried to do things that are enjoyable, knowing that if I just keep coming back every day, for a long enough period of time, like, it's going to probably work out. But me, getting burnt out and tired and saying this is not for me is obviously a loss. And so I think just like learn to enjoy the process, because, even now, as, cool and fun as Jasper is, like, I don't know that I'm having more fun and enjoying it like way more than when it was just three of us in a room with like, nobody wanting to pick up our calls. I think it's all just been a really fun part of the journey. So enjoy that. And then, just stick close to customers. That really, again, it's simple, but it's hard. And it seems to be challenging to do over a long period of time. But doing that is just so dang valuable that even as all the technology shifts and everything, like there's always going to be a lot of IP right there from the insights that you get from dealing with customers directly.
That's great. Yeah, Dave, love the continued focus on customers, and your optimism and energy comes out even in the short amount of time we have together. So thanks for reiterating that. And Paroma, same question for you. Think about at the beginning of this journey, if you could pull yourself aside and say, hey, think about this, what would that advice be for yourself?
Dave actually stole mine around being very customer focused. But, kind of, as someone with a PhD, one of the things that I would love to tell myself early on, it's one of our company values actually, is practical innovation, really working on solutions that have real impact for customers and deliver value rather than just working on the fanciest algorithm. I think especially now, it's really easy to get distracted by a lot of the kind of shiny things that are going on. It might get you kind of 60 to 80% of the way, but not really get to a point where you're delivering business value. That last mile might not always be the most fun or the most innovative, but that's what matters, right? So kind of keeping practical innovation tied to customer value always in mind when building.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Paroma. And last but definitely not least, Arvind, what would you tell yourself at the beginning of these journeys? What advice would you give that young founder?
So I would like, the one most important thing for me, like as a founder, is to persist, in, the problems that you're trying to build. You're going to run into a lot of roadblocks. Oftentimes, you're going to hear that maybe, this is not the right idea to work on. And you have to sort of just be strong and keep working at it. Ultimately, like if you identified a problem, that needed to be solved, that means it needs to be solved. And you need to just keep going at it. So that's the number one advice that I always give to founders, is don't give up on your own problems that you came up. And I think with respect to AI, one suggestion that I have is, AI is not the technology that's going to be a product in itself. You cannot go and solve, build new ideas just because these AI technologies give you a new way to solve problems. Like, you have to actually, again, think about the product that you're building, as an end-to-end problem, work with your customers, build, think about the workflows that are going to actually help them, with the tasks that they need to do, and think of AI just as an enabler in that, not as the entire product. That's what I would suggest to everyone.
Thank you, Arvind. Some great themes that all three of you have shared around be resilient, stick to your journey, but make sure that journey is based off of what the customer is telling you that they need. Be willing to experiment. And Paroma, as you said, be excited about the shiny object, but convert that shiny object into an outcome that people care about, that solves problems. And Dave, really excellent reminder that this is hard work, but stay optimistic and enjoy the journey. What an incredible opportunity that you have. And frankly, it's been an incredible set of insights that we've gotten from all three of you today. We believe we're just at the very beginning of this very long game where the application of these advanced technologies like AI are going to give birth to entirely new companies like the three folks we have here, as well as products that frankly are going to change the world and dazzle customers in ways none of us can even really imagine today. I want to thank each of our three founder guests for the wisdom and for the experience and the advice that all three of you have shared today. And all the best to all of our guests who have joined this session as well. Best of luck on your own journeys. Remember to enjoy it. Remember to stay resilient. Remember to stay focused on customers. And we at Google Cloud are super humbled to be a part of that journey with you. So thanks so much, everyone, again, and have a wonderful day.
Welcome to the 2023 Google Cloud Startup Summit. We have an exciting panel planned today as part of our VC AMA series, where we'll be discussing cloud, data, AI, and the opportunity for these technologies to disrupt legacy industries. My name is Sharon Prosser, Vice President of SMB Sales in Google Cloud. Joining us on the panel today are Anna Patterson, founding partner of Gradient Ventures, and James Luo, partner of Capital G. We will have them introduce themselves as they are incredibly impressive. Hi, Anna. Hi, James. So the audience can get to know you. Can you give us, in elevator pitch style, a little bit about you and your firms? Anna, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Anna Patterson. I have a PhD in computer science, actually in AI. I was an early engineer here at Google, and I was acquired through a startup. And later on in my career, I got back in touch with startups and pitched Google on starting an early stage venture fund focused in AI. And that's how Gradient Ventures was born. And we're early stage, seed and A, and sometimes B. AI fund, and our check size is generally 1 to 10 million.
And James.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. I'm James. I'm a partner at Capital G, where I focus my time on infrastructure software with specific focus on areas like security, data analytics, networking, and also partially AI ML. Capital G is Alphabet's independent growth fund. So we make financial investments into leading technology companies. And our mission is to back and help scale those generational technology companies and their founders. We've invested slightly north of $4 billion across a set of portfolio companies like Stripe, Airbnb, CrowdStrike, Duolingo, Databricks, and others. And our mission is to leverage the resources that we have and the resources at Alphabet to help our companies in areas like go-to-market, product engineering, and people and talent.
Yeah. Wow. So I mentioned impressive, and Anna and James, you delivered. Thank you for being here. You know, the range of focus from seed early stage AI with your firm, Anna, across to Capital G, James, which is more growth stage and infrastructure software, aligns well to our diverse audience of startups listening here. Now, with your different backgrounds and investment strategies, can you each share your perspective on the type of due diligence startups should do before reaching out to you? What kinds of companies are you looking for? And also, can you talk a little bit about what's different about the stages at which each of you invest? What kinds of deals do the seed early stage investments that Gradient does look like versus how do they look at the growth stages where Capital G typically operates? So over to you, James.
Yeah, I can start on that. So for us at Capital G, we typically invest in growth stage businesses, and the way that we think about those are companies that have really achieved clear product market fit. That typically means that we'll get involved a little bit later than Anna and Gradient, for example. We'll typically get involved around the Series B, C, or later. And our initial check sizes are often in the $50 to $100 million range, with additional capital that we reserve for subsequent financing rounds. So, the work that I would do if I were in your shoes on a firm like us is to really understand the stage that we invest, because that really impacts how we can help deliver value for startups and for companies that are being built by entrepreneurs. And so we're really focused on the idea of scaling a company that has found clear product market fit and just needs that extra muscle on sales and marketing and go-to-market and product innovation to help take them to the larger market opportunity that they're hopefully going to go after. And so from our standpoint, the companies that we look for are obviously entrepreneurs with really bold visions who are going after really big market opportunities and really big problems. We're pretty thematic. The partners at Capital G are all very focused on different subsectors, and we dive deep into those sectors and create investment theses on those. So if you're one of those founders that has a big problem, think you've cracked the product market fit question, we're always super happy to meet you and get to know you.
Great. And Anna, tell us a little bit about Gradient.
We invest at the opposite end of the spectrum. We often invest in founders. We used to joke around that we invest in founders with a pitch deck and nothing else. I think now it's not even a pitch deck and nothing else. It's really around, team and vision, how they see a market evolving, what they think they can build. And Gradient Ventures has a pretty decent size team to really help seed stage companies. We have people who help them understand enterprise sales. We have people who help them understand channel partnerships and talent and marketing to really help a seed stage company kind of learn how to run a business.
It's helpful to hear you elaborate on your focus areas and what you both look for. And while on different ends of the spectrum, there were also some similar things that you both mentioned as well. For a startup, there needs to be a vision. And is what you're building or have built solving a problem? So AI is the buzzword of the year, with several additional buzz phrases: generative AI, LLM. But not every founder should be adding AI to their pitch decks. Share with us how you think about founders building AI companies versus using AI products.
I think we invest in both companies who are using AI in order to solve a business problem, but we also invest in infrastructure companies that are building AI infrastructure. Streamlit was an example of that, as was Algorithmia and Labelbox. Those are infrastructure companies that help people build AI applications or build AI into their business applications. But we're happy to invest in a company that's really using an AI to solve a problem. Right now in the generative space, you're seeing all kinds of companies that are helping an enterprise maybe understand a problem better or understand a problem differently. And so we're really watching how that evolves, and do think that we are in a really exciting time for AI companies.
Yeah. And James, how are you thinking about AI? And what are some of the other sectors that you think hold a lot of promise in this market?
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what Anna said. I think the way that we look at the world is there's a set of, sometimes described as picks and shovels, we'll call it core infrastructure that underpins AI and enables other companies to take advantage of it, whether they're these large language model companies that are effectively building proprietary large language models and then licensing it via APIs, or your companies who are building developer infrastructure to enable developers at companies to make AI a reality for their enterprise. And so we think of the world in terms of infrastructure, but also applications. And I think Anna alluded to this a little bit. There are a lot of companies, frankly, probably at some point, every company in the world is going to be an application that is powered in part by AI. And so I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity on both sides of the spectrum. And for us, we've been investing in, I'll call it machine learning and AI more broadly for a long time. we've invested in companies like Dataiku and Databricks that really help enterprises create custom-built AI and use machine learning in their businesses. But we've also spent a lot of time more recently on some of these foundational models of companies actually building very large models that hopefully will turn out to have really strong use cases in a bunch of different practical areas. And my colleague Jill Chase leads a lot of our investing in that area. And one of our recent investments there is a company called Magic that's trying to change the way that developers operate with large language models. And the last thing I'll say is that there are a lot of areas even near and dear to our hearts as investors that are going to be impacted by AI. I recently led investment in a company called AlphaSense, which effectively uses AI and large language models and their own kind of domain-specific language models to really change the way that kind of business workers and business researchers look for information and search for insight. And that's one way that we've seen it really apply to the market intelligence kind of corporate research industry. That's really interesting. I think we're really just at the tip of the spear in terms of what the possibilities are of embedding AI in both infrastructure and in products.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for those examples. And I think these two approaches give startups a way to define what AI means to them. There's some uniqueness going on in the market right now. The IPO market is cooled and we're seeing a slowdown in funding. James, can you share what kinds of signals and metrics that growth stage investors are looking for in this current environment, and what kinds of startups are getting funded?
Yeah, so first of all, I'll say that I'm sure Anna will echo this point. We're fortunate enough to have Alphabet as our single LP, and Alphabet has a very long-term horizon on frankly, a lot of investments. And so from our standpoint, we're very much open for business. We're always looking for great entrepreneurs, great teams, great companies to back. And so please don't hesitate if you want to reach out and have a conversation. We're 100% open and ready to invest. So I'll put that out there, maybe a little bit of a shameless plug. But in terms of at the growth stage, what types of metrics that we're seeing folks evaluate, I think there was a time where growth was the only thing that mattered. And it's really come back to the point where growth at the right unit economics is what really matters. And so what we're always looking for is strong fundamentals that enable you to grow sustainably in a way that's unit economic profitable. And so that's strong product, strong market, strong product market fit, as well as kind of sales economics that indicate that. And I think the growth companies that you've seen getting funded are the ones that have been able to sustain a certain rate of growth while showing folks and demonstrating investors and employees and customers that they can do that with reasonable amounts of spending. And we see that both in the late stage private market as well as in the IPO market, where kind of profitability or unit economics has come back in vogue again. And I do think that this is probably the way that it's going to go for some time, because the reality is everyone wants to build sustainable businesses, and having that sense of sustainable unit economics, being able to drive growth is important for kind of long-term building a great business.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Anna, given your focus on seed and early stage investing, could you share with us your perspective on finding the best glide path from lab to market, especially around the uniqueness of GTM and the path to commercialization with AI startups?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at seed and you're looking at an economy that isn't boom time like it was in 2021, for us, when you invest in a company and they don't ship or have customers for 18 months, that's working as intended. So then it's okay, for us to take a long time to really nurture the first few customers, to really understand what the needs are in the market, and use this time to build a little bit more slowly at the seed phase, and hopefully then nail the product market fit so that as things loosen up, then they can grow more quickly.
Great. Well, I appreciate the expert advice for today's market. Now, in our VC AMA series, we like to get our VC's perspective on certain trends in a lightning round format. And I'll start with Anna and go to James. For each of the trends, let us know, are they staying or fading? Mega rounds.
Fading.
I'm going to say staying, actually.
Video conference fundraising.
Fading.
I'm also going to say staying. Wow, Anna, we should talk about this offline.
Remote work.
Staying.
Staying.
LLM as a service.
Staying.
Staying.
Super app environments.
Staying.
I'm going to say staying also.
Well, thank you to Anna and James for sharing perspectives today on trends in AI and the VC funding environment. We're excited for the rest of the Startup Summit agenda. Thank you all for listening in. If you're interested in our VC AMA series, we encourage you to come and check out the ongoing AMA series, where Google Cloud will host different VCs each month. Please go to the link below in the session description to check out the details, view our past events, and learn about future events that will continue to take place on a monthly basis.
Hi there, I'm Stephanie Samuels. I am MongoDB's global lead for our Google Cloud partnership. And thank you everyone for joining the GCP Startup Summit. So, everywhere you turn these days, artificial intelligence and generative AI is the topic of conversations everywhere, from like the news to the boardroom. It's all over the internet. Every business, from your smallest startups to your biggest enterprises, are all looking at how do they take advantage of this type of technology. That is why I am so excited to be moderating this discussion around AI and startups. Today, I am very honored to be joined with two thought leaders in this space. First off, I am pleased to introduce Benjamin Flatz from MongoDB. Benjamin is a lead product manager focused on all things analytics and AI. Ben is super excited about all the opportunities that are coming with generative technologies. That said, while Ben is not thinking about analytics and AI, he'd rather be skiing. So Ben, say hello.
Hey, everybody.
Wonderful. I'm also very excited to introduce Amit Ben. Amit is the founder and the CEO of One AI. Fun fact about Amit. While many of us have only been focused on AI for the last couple of years, Amit has been passionately involved in the space for well over decades. In fact, his lifelong fascination with natural language processing, or NLP, and artificial intelligence has led him to co-found NanoRep, and he led AI and data science for LogMeIn. Basically, he developed the AI behind popular products, or he was involved in developing the AI behind popular products such as GoToMeeting and LastPass. So over the next 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to pick their brains. We're really going to take the opportunity to learn from both of these industry thought leaders. We're going to discuss the various decisions startups have to go through when choosing a development platform to build services using generative AI. Today's session is geared towards helping you make proactive, informed decisions when developing for performance, scale, functionality, and TCO. That said, let's just jump right into it. Amit, I'm going to start with you. Can you share with all of us a little bit about One AI and why it's so relevant right now?
Yeah, sure, Stephanie. Thanks. So, the team and I have all been working on language AI and generative AI for a very long time now. And over the course of our careers, we've been building these AI-based capabilities for various products in various fields. We had to rebuild the tech stack all over again every single time. And with the advent of generative AI, which is actually the ability to take these models that have prior knowledge and have been pre-trained on all very large data sets in realms, of image generation, text generation, data generation, and take these capabilities and package them in a way that gives startups and products companies the ability to deploy much faster with a lower TCO and higher confidence rate and deliver the capabilities that they need into their products and services. We thought this is the culmination of everything that we've been working towards our entire careers. So we're extremely excited to be in this place at this time where it finally makes sense for every company to have AI in its product portfolio.
For some of us out here who might not be as in-depth in knowledge on generative AI, can you talk to us a little bit more about what is generative AI?
Sure. So as I said, generative AI is a new breed of AI capabilities that is usually pre-trained on very large data sets, consumes very large quantities of images and text and data, and it allows the AI to train to generate new text and new data based on new queries or new prompts. And this allows companies to be faster in deploying those capabilities in their products and services. They don't have to retrain the whole AI from scratch. Just think intuitively that it's more akin to AI previously used to be just newborn babies without any knowledge. So anything that you wanted to teach them, you would need to completely do it from scratch. But today, AIs are more like teenagers. They don't have exact grasp of everything. They don't have mature understanding of all concepts, but have pretty broad and good understanding of the world knowledge of how it works. And all you need to do is usually just a little fine tuning to get them to do exactly what you need in a repeatable, scalable fashion.
I love that analogy. As someone who's had both a baby and a teenager, that analogy really fits. I love it. Ben, I'm going to ask you this next question. What difficulties do arise when we're applying AI technology to real world business or product situations?
Sure. So, we're talking to a lot of different startups working in this space these days, and the things that we hear coming up again and again are really, challenges around explainability and hallucination. These are popular terms in the space right now. And any service that's going to be taking advantage of generative services is going to want to keep them in mind. And I think fundamentally, the thing to kind of keep in the back of your mind as you build out a product and as you consume these services is, for instance, with hallucination, is it a benefit? Is it a feature for what you're doing? Is it great that it creates some new content or some new or unexpected experience? Or is it a risk? And if it's a risk, then how do you mitigate that? And so that's kind of a key concern that, companies need to be taking, into mind while they're designing new services. And then separately, for services that are being designed in more sensitive fields or, verticals, when it comes to explainability, we see customers often needing to figure out ways that they can often build in explainability to their product, even if the core service that they are using doesn't have it, right? So a lot of these generative services don't provide explainability themselves, and in some cases they can't. And so the service that is consuming the generative AI needs to be able to provide explainability in order to reassure whoever the end user is of that product. And these are kind of two of the key things that we see people keeping in mind as they're building services on top of these new technologies.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you. From your perspective, what is it that you see are some of the difficulties?
Yeah, I think what Ben just went through really hit the very important parts of thinking about AI and how you're integrating it into your product. So the main questions would be, how reliable and accurate do you need the service to be? And hallucinations do take an important part in that consideration. And you basically need to think about how much automation and how reliant you are on the success of the AI performing its job accurately. And I would completely separate the creative use cases from the data extraction and business use cases. So if you have a tool that generates haikus or help writing copy for ads, it can be creative, that's fine. But if you're trying to analyze a financial report and get the interest rate to the T, you have to, and you don't have a man in the middle, so there's no human in the loop. You're going to need to find a solution that specializes in generating those exact outputs in a structured way, and also be able to plug that into a database that can harvest and hold and then query all of those data sets that you're generating dynamically. So you need a good solution if you're going to rely on that.
That's an extremely good call out. So along those lines, when One AI was choosing their tech stack, can you share a little bit about what made you choose Atlas on GCP and kind of how are you using it?
Yeah, sure. So, for One AI, we're an AI company. Most companies, even if they use AI and leverage AI in their product portfolio and in their service, they're not the AI is not the core company. It's one of the capabilities. So for us, we are an AI company and we have to focus on that. We need to make sure that's very accurate, and we deal with hallucinations and parsing data and getting structured outputs and basically taking care of all of the issues or most of the issues with generative AI today. But for us to be able to focus on that, we need to make sure we have a rock steady foundation that we can build on, that we have a database that it can plug into and know that whatever comes, it will be able to adapt to the new schemas, to the new data we're going to throw at it, to the scale that we need to throw data at it, both in write and read. And of course, with GCP, have a scalable platform and infrastructure that we know we can rely on for the long term. I think a common mistake for startups is that they're taking niche solutions or kind of trying out things that aren't best in class. And in many cases, that kind of blows up a bit later when you're actually finding, I need to handle security, I need to handle scalability, I need to handle dynamic schemas or higher load or redundancies and everything else that have been probably written by tears and sweat of hard-working engineers. So don't replicate stuff. And this is why we chose this tech stack, so it will allow us to focus on what we do best.
I love it. Ben, before we move on, do you have anything else that you want to add about that and kind of Atlas and why choose Atlas?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more with everything that Amit said. The things that I would just maybe double click on are around kind of scalability as a long-term thing that you will need. And so just having it in the back pocket as you grow. But early on, flexibility and performance are going to be so key, right? And MongoDB has that really in spades. And so early on, you can be confident that you're able to have tight iteration cycles on top of your product, working with the flexible document model. You have world-class security and a range of integrations, all of the kinds of things that you don't want to worry about at all when you're getting started. And I definitely would just kind of reiterate not reinventing the wheel and just taking advantage of all the innovations we've worked on at MongoDB, and on top of the very solid base that is GCP. So I really think Amit kind of clicked on all of it, but the flexibility for me in the early stages especially is really key, and I think that is something that's kind of unparalleled with the document model.
So Amit, we do have a lot of startups here, and I'm sure they'll be very interested to hear what additional advice would you give?
There's no one silver bullet. There's no one thing that I would say, because there's so many different things you're going to be handling when you're founding a startup. But I think a few of the most important things are stick to what you're good at and what you're best at, and don't try to be a jack of all trades. And at the same time, pick a problem that you can be passionate about every day, every single day, over and over again, because you're going to be diving into that problem and focusing your entire life on solving that problem. So pick something that you can really set your brain to waking up every morning and attacking that.
Ben, you're in your role, you work a lot with startups. Any other additional advice that you would like to offer?
Yeah, I would just throw out there that, as we all know, finding product market fit is really key. And as fast as you can do that is what's really important. And so tight iteration cycles is what we see being very successful with our partners, having a very high bar for quality within their products, and making sure that you get as many shots at finding product market fit, as possible. So, those are the things that we see being real differentiators. And I think the last thing I might just toss out is, in this space, in generative AI, where there's tons of new technologies coming out every week, it's moving extremely fast. Yes. I think, taking the time to be thoughtful about what it is you're building and how you're building it is really what's going to get you to the point of having durable innovation.
So when I think about it, I think we've got an audience of a lot of startups, and part of what they would probably want to know is like what resources are available to them. How do they actually get started? No pun intended. And how do they access these resources? So I know, Amit, that One AI has a lot of different resources available for startups. Do you want to take some time and talk a bit about that?
We're really strong on giving back, and in One AI, we're not as big as Google Cloud or Mongo yet, but we want to help the startup community as much as we can. That's why we don't just have a free tier, we have a mega free tier that give startup companies access to all of our capabilities, and that includes all of our core skills that gives data in a structured output without hallucinations and very high confidence and scalability. Our custom skills that allow you to fine-tune generative AI very easily and very scalable and fast deployments. And our language analytics solutions, all of them go into the mega free tier. We also give you free expert consultation and figure out what's the best combination of capabilities that will fit into your product. You can easily apply at oneai.com/mega-free, and we'd love to help.
Excellent. Thank you for that. On the MongoDB GCP side, again, lots of resources available. Both Mongo and Google Cloud take a look at our startups as such a critical and important part of our business. So if you go to cloud.google.com/MongoDB/startups, you'll find programs designed just for startups. These programs are on credits, getting technical and onboarding support, technical advice. With regard to the credits, you can get free credits both from GCP for Firebase, as well as for other Google-wide discounts, as well as credits on the MongoDB side for Atlas. There's onboarding and technical support available on the MongoDB side. There's dedicated one-on-one technical sessions that we find startups find very valuable. And so there are resources available. With that, I hope you found this session to be beneficial. I'd like to thank Ben and Amit for their time, candor, and their thought leadership. And to everyone, enjoy the rest of the Google Cloud Startup Summit. Thank you so much for joining.
Welcome to the Startup Summit. My name is Nima. I'm a product manager for Vertex AI. I focus on generative AI, and I'm here with Steph. Steph, can you take a moment to introduce yourself, what you do, and talk a little bit about your company?
Sure, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Steph. Before starting Cradle, I was on a product leadership team of Google Research and Machine Intelligence, and I'm now the co-founder and CEO of a company called Cradle. We work in the field of biology, and I think maybe for context in the audience, you can build a lot of different products by using and engineering biology to improve human and planetary health. So for example, in pharma, companies like Moderna make vaccines using biology, but there's a lot of different other applications as well. So a company like Perfect Day is making dairy, like milk, without a cow using a fungus, or a company like Sologen in Houston is making chemicals without using actual petrol. And really about 60% of all of our economic inputs could be made this way. And we're really a company that's trying to accelerate that trend. So Cradle uses generative AI to engineer proteins, which are sort of small biological systems with fewer and more successful experiments. So more people start building in this space. You can think of us a little bit as sort of ChatGPT or Bard for biology. And so in our case, instead of giving it a sentence and you get an answer to your question, we give you a sequence. You tell us how you would like it to be better, and then we generate a set of experiments that you could basically run. We have a really great team of biologists, machine learning experts, and designers from places like Uber, Zymergen, Google, Perfect Day. And we just raised $5 million from Index Ventures and Kindred Capital, and working with some industry-leading design partners, both in the pharma and chemical space.
It's very cool. I use Bard to improve my emails, but using generative AI to invent essentially new biologies is definitely slightly cooler, I would say. Can you talk a little bit about how your company actually uses Google Cloud? What parts of it do they leverage?
Yeah, definitely. So everything that we currently do is on Google Cloud. And there's really a lot of things to love. So the platform is actually quite easy to use. And so onboarding new people onto it is super easy. I think as a CEO, what's important to me is that the pricing is also very clear compared to some other competitors. Obviously, training machine learning models is not cheap. And so you kind of want to know what you're signing up for. Some of the pieces of the platform that we really like are our Kubernetes engine, really to manage all of the machines that you're starting up. It's super easy to configure, has some really great presets, is secure and really fast to get started. And then as we're scaling, it really scales with you. And so that's been awesome. I think on the machine learning side, there's really two types of products that we really like on GCP. One is BigQuery. As you can imagine, we train on lots of DNA sequences, and so a lot of input data that we had to collect ourselves, and then querying it, getting slices in it. BigQuery is really an amazing product to do that. And then obviously, we're training machine learning models. We're serving them for our customers. We're fine-tuning them. And there's really a really large variety of accelerators from both NVIDIA as well as Google's internal TPU program to run different types of workloads, whether they're training workloads, tuning workloads, or inference workloads. And then obviously, if you're a generative AI company, you get some credits and some really awesome support. So we appreciate that as well.
Absolutely. I think the people in the audience would love to know, when do you make that decision over when to use a managed service or build it yourself? Because we have those different options on Google Cloud.
Yeah, definitely. I think it depends basically on two things. One is sort of the product that you want, and then the feature set that you want. There are definitely a bunch of off-the-shelf, really good managed services for things like language translation or knowledge extraction that you can use through Vertex AI. In our case, there isn't any like DNA-based models out there, so that wasn't really an option. I think as you decide on sort of what features you need in the software that you're building, there's always a little bit of the, do I do the managed service or do I do it myself? And it's really, can I get started quickly versus flexibility trade-off. Obviously, a managed service is going to be more opinionated about how you do it. Whereas, if you're taking some open source and running it yourself, there's a lot more flexibility. I think it's important to note that the stack for developing machine learning products, especially generative AI machine learning products, is still very much a work in progress. And so for every sort of type of thing that you want, where it's monitoring, workflow management, that's really a trade-off you need to make yourself. We found that when it comes to, for example, infrastructure like TPUs, NVIDIA, that kind of thing, that's a clear thing. I think for a lot of data access stuff, there's a lot of good services there. Some other things, like for example, monitoring is still in the very early days. And so, we initially started using GCP monitoring, like what used to be Stackdriver, but that was clearly built a little bit more for web. And we ran into some limitations pretty quickly. And so there we actually ultimately went for Grafana. But so it's either, if you want to get started, prototype quickly, that's definitely a place where you can use managed services, or if you don't think you're going to need a lot of flexibility.
Absolutely. Speaking of this choice, are you a single cloud company, or actually do you use multi-cloud?
So we ourselves are single cloud. That said, we work in a industry that's only starting on their cloud journey right now, and that means often we get the request to deploy our software in a private cloud setting. And so, that also means that we sometimes need to deploy to other cloud environments, like, for example, AWS. Specifically, what we found works pretty well is Terraform. And so you can actually build on GCP and then deploy in any cloud that you like. Obviously, that comes with certain trade-offs, like, you couldn't get BigQuery on other clouds, and that's definitely something that we really like.
Absolutely. And I think for many of the startups in the audience, that ability to service multi-cloud will probably be something that they will have to deal with simply because of the customers that they work with. Turning a little bit towards privacy and regulations, you're based in EMEA and all over the world, this concept of governance and issues around personal information and regulations are really hitting AI. And they're probably only going to get worse as generative AI comes online. I'd really love to understand how your startup goes about dealing with these issues.
Yeah, definitely. When we talk to our customers and sort of the IT departments of our customers, there's really three things that they're looking for. And maybe to give a little bit of context, like when you're engineering a sequence, that is the IP, right? That's the core. Like for Google, that would be the search algorithm, right? Mm-hmm. And so for us, the bar is pretty high to make sure we're good shepherds of that data, and that when we help engineer those types of proteins, and so that IP, that we take good care of it. The first, lowest bar is your security needs to be bulletproof, right? So, and that's really something you get for free with GCP. Second is, and this really depends on the company, they sometimes have localization requirements, and so you have to run it into a certain zone. But I think the most and biggest issue really is data privacy. And so here, our customers are mostly worried about, do you not regenerate my IP somewhere? Do you not train on my data and then give my competitor a certain edge? That's really something that they want to avoid. There's a couple of things that you can do, but this is still very much an emerging field. In our case, what we do is we have sort of a set of base models that we've trained and fine-tuned that work really well for a certain task, and then we isolate them for an individual customer, and they get to fine-tune on their sort of experimental results. Because really what we get back for fine-tuning is not I like the prompt or I didn't like the prompt. It's sort of I did an experiment, it worked, it didn't work. And then the second thing that risk that some of our customers are worried about is, will your employees not take some of our IP out? And I definitely think if you're building for jobs where you're dealing with IP, so like you're generating new chip designs, or you're generating in this case DNA sequences, or anything that is of super high value to a company, you really want to avoid the risk of it being generated somewhere else, because that just means death for your company. Anyway, so the second thing that our customers care about is that our employees don't steal their IP. And so one of the things that we use in GCP is the customer managed encryption keys, which basically allows us to give very strong guarantees that none of our employees could actually ever see what came out of our models or what went into them, which is a really great feature.
Yeah, end-to-end data governance is so important for any AI machine learning organization. So 100% agree with you on that one. All right. Lessons learned. If you could talk to yourself, a few years back or when you were younger, what are a few key takeaways you've learned that you would love to share with yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, machine learning and developing generative AI is a lot more trial and error than conventional computer science, right? It's already hard to build a normal product, but here you also have to answer, does it actually do the thing I want it to do, right? And so that typically means you have some folks that are more ML engineers or researchers that are trying out new models, they're fine-tuning them, they're taking out different data sets and seeing if they can make them better. Then you have, let's say, your ML ops folks that are blessing these models and they're bringing them into production. And then you have the folks that go need to serve them. And they have wildly different requirements, right? So the research teams, they want to iterate quickly, right? They want to try out a new model from a paper. They want to train and tune them. They want to go back. And so those are things like versioning and caching and checkpoints. Those things are important. Whereas our platform team is like, is it robust? Does it scale? Can I monitor it? Is it easy to manage, right? That's the only thing that they care about. And so I think early on, what often happens is you start on the research side because you kind of want to demonstrate that it actually works, right? And so that typically means lots of Colab notebooks with demonstrators, but then very quickly you lose sort of, what data did we train this on and what version of the model was this and that kind of thing. And so I think we should have invested in experimental infrastructure a bit earlier. And so that really boils down to flexible workflow orchestration tools that of which some are also provided by GCP. So that's really a thing that I would have invested in a little bit earlier, probably 3 months earlier. It's totally worth it, and it's a real sort of force multiplier once you have it in place.
It really is something, because I think this is every startup's mentality is like, I want to go do the research, I want to go invent first, and then I'll get to control and governance later. But you just can't go back and put that genie back in the bottle.
No, and to your point, the research efforts might not always yield a result. So you might want to go back to like 1 month ago, and they're like, all right, well, what were you doing 1 month ago, right? And actually, honestly, when I was at Google a couple of years ago, this was still an issue, right? There were a lot of people that would, implement a new model, publish a paper, and then there was some TensorFlow graph laying around somewhere, and then a production team had to just go pick that up and build their own plumbing around it. But having that ability to just iterate fast on the research, make the models better, and then ship them quickly in a way that's sort of reliable, that's a really hard challenge, and so you should invest in it early.
Yeah, it's data governance, it's model governance, and I think with generative AI, you're going to have things like prompt governance, or what tuning governance you have. So to your point, I think it's only going to get worse. Are there any other lessons that you have that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think the data privacy issues are real, and you should start having conversations with your customers early. There are definitely solutions there. But typically people are trying to build a moat through like fine tuning, but inversely, they don't want to screw over their customers at the same time. And so being very honest with your customers about, do you care or not, is very important. For example, when we work with universities, they typically are like, yeah, of course, I'll contribute to making a base model better. But if you're, let's say, a large pharma company, they'll typically be like, I don't trust you with that. And oh, by the way, you're going to run it in my private cloud, right? If you want to sell this to me. So.
Yeah, having those conversations and matching expectations to the different constituents, I think is very important. I think not just for data privacy, but I think for any startup, matching those expectations is super, super important.
Yeah, and a lot of your customers are not going to know anything about the internals, and so like you really have to bring it down to how worried are you, and what are really the things that you're worried about, and it's typically things like don't leak my IP or those types of things.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this session, and a big thank you to Steph for taking the time to speak with us and share a lot of your wisdom. We really enjoyed it, and looking forward to seeing what you do with your organization as you move forward. Thank you everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, Nima and Steph. That was an incredibly interesting discussion. That closes out the Google Cloud Startup Summit today. We hope you enjoyed it, and we've definitely loved having you here. Don't forget to apply for the Google for Startups Cloud program and the additional AI Startup program and Accelerator. Have a great day.